This is 18-year-old Keelia Windigo, and the night she turned 18 would also be the night her life ended. Friends always said she was the kind of person who only saw the good in people. But after what happened, those same words would hit differently. Because sometimes the people we see as good are the ones we should have been most careful with.
We begin tonight in Wolseley, just east of Regina. The town and a family left in shock after an 18-year-old was killed at her birthday party.
By all accounts, Keelia Windigo was the kind of person who stood up for what was right. Born on August 18, 2006, Keelia grew up surrounded by family, culture, and community. She was raised between Wolseley and the Carry-the-Kettle Nakota Nation in Saskatchewan, a small, close-knit world where everyone knew your name and birthdays were celebrated like family holidays. Her mom used to say Keelia had a heart that forgave too easily. She trusted people, believed in them. She'd defend anyone who was being picked on and go out of her way to make sure no one felt left out. And we're not exaggerating when we say that. Literally everyone who knows her says the same thing. In fact, from a young age, Keelia dreamed of making a difference. She loved science, mystery shows, and anything that involved solving puzzles. Her plan was simple but meaningful: to study forensic science at the University of Regina and eventually work in law enforcement. She wanted to help families find answers, to bring light into dark places. Her family said it made sense. She'd always been curious, always the first to ask why. But before any of those dreams could take shape, everything stopped, on the very day it was supposed to begin. It was August 18, 2024, Keelia Windigo's 18th birthday. Now, she wasn't a party person in the typical sense, but birthdays are different, right? It's that one day where you get to let loose a little, have fun, and feel like the world is celebrating you. So, Keelia did what any normal 18-year-old would do. She invited a few close friends over to celebrate. It was supposed to be a fun and safe night. But no one there could have imagined that before sunrise, that sense of safety would completely disappear. So what happened, you might ask? Well, in the early hours of August 18th, sometime after 3 in the morning, what started as a small, friendly birthday hangout turned into a nightmare. Everyone was just winding down, a few people talking, some music still playing softly in the background. The mood was easygoing, relaxed, the kind of late-night calm that settles in after hours of laughter. But among the group was a teenage boy, someone Keelia already knew. He wasn't a stranger, and that's what makes this so unsettling. He was from the same area, part of the same small-town circle where everyone kind of knew each other's names or faces. He wasn't just some random person who showed up. He was someone people trusted enough to let inside. That night, this boy brought a firearm with him, and that one decision changed everything. It's still unclear why he had it or what exactly led up to that moment, but according to the RCMP, the gun went off inside the house. One single shot. It was enough to end everything. When the sound rang out, panic filled the room. People froze. Some screamed, others rushed to help. But by the time first responders arrived, it was too late. Keelia was already gone. At first, no one could believe it. It didn't seem real, not in a town like Wolseley, where things like this just don't happen. Some thought it had to be an accident, maybe a gun someone found or was playing around with. But as investigators started piecing things together, the details didn't add up to a random mistake. The teenager who fired the gun wasn't supposed to have it in the first place. In fact, he was already under a firearms prohibition order, meaning a judge had legally banned him from owning, carrying, or even touching a gun. That kind of order doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's given to people who've already had run-ins with the law or shown dangerous behavior in the past. So the question became, how did he even get one? Authorities later revealed that the boy had somehow gotten his hands on a loaded firearm despite the court's ban. Whether he borrowed it, stole it, or was given it by someone else, still hasn't been fully made public. But the fact that he had it at all showed a major gap, a failure between the law that said he couldn't have a weapon and the reality that no one was making sure he didn't. It's one of those moments where the system that's supposed to protect people just didn't. What's worse is that this wasn't a case of strangers crossing paths. Keelia and the boy had likely seen each other around before. They were from the same area, knew some of the same people. He was familiar enough that nobody questioned his presence. That's the thing about small towns. When you recognize a face, you automatically assume you're safe. No one expects that person to be carrying a gun, much less capable of pulling the trigger. By the time police arrived, chaos had turned to shock. People at the scene were crying, confused, trying to explain what happened but struggling to put it into words. The RCMP secured the area and started asking questions. How did he get in? Who brought the gun? What exactly led up to that moment? But the one question that couldn't be answered, the one that haunted everyone, was why. As news spread, the story took over social media. 18-year-old woman found dead after shooting in Wolseley. Those were the headlines. But to the people who knew her, it wasn't just a story. It was personal. It was about a young woman who trusted too easily, a night that was supposed to be fun, and a mistake that should never have been possible in the first place. The boy was arrested before sunrise and charged with manslaughter with a firearm, along with several other weapons-related offenses. Investigators found out he'd broken his court order multiple times before, and yet no one had followed up. No one had checked to make sure he wasn't armed again. It's one of those tragic examples of how laws look good on paper, but fail in real life when no one enforces them. For Keelia's family, it didn't matter what he was charged with or what excuses came out later. None of it could bring her back. Her mother, Kristen, said she couldn't even find the right words to describe the pain. Her twin brother, Callum, was silent for days, still trying to make sense of how the person who had been part of their world for years was suddenly gone because of one reckless act. And the hardest part? This wasn't a story about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Keelia was exactly where she was supposed to be, at home, surrounded by people she trusted, celebrating her birthday. She didn't make a dangerous choice or take a risk. The danger came to her. The boy, who can't be named because of Canadian youth protection laws, remains at the center of the investigation. But even as legal proceedings move forward, one thing is clear. This never should have happened. Not to her. Not that night. Not on her 18th birthday. The community response was overwhelming. Within days, people began leaving flowers, candles, and handwritten notes near the home where the shooting took place. A local artist painted a small mural of Keelia surrounded by butterflies, a symbol of transformation, peace, and remembrance. Vigils were held across Wolseley and at the Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation, where her family had deep roots. People came together in silence, some holding candles, others simply standing with tears in their eyes. Her obituary described her as a young woman who brought light wherever she went. And it wasn't just poetic. Everyone who knew her agreed. It was true. She was the girl who checked on her friends after school, who made sure no one ate lunch alone, who talked about wanting to make the world safer. That's what made this loss so heavy, because she didn't live recklessly or make dangerous choices. She was cautious, caring, and full of hope. And yet she became the victim of someone else's carelessness and a system's failure to follow through. As of the making of this video, there's still no known update about the case. The investigation and court proceedings remain ongoing, and Keelia's family continues to wait for answers and accountability. But while we're waiting for new developments, here's another case that's eerily similar to what happened to Keelia. One that raises the same painful questions about trust, safety, and the systems that are supposed to protect us. Now we turn to another heartbreaking case, one that feels eerily similar to Keelia's story. A young woman murdered on her own birthday by the very same people she trusted the most. Even her name sounds hauntingly close. This is Keeley Bunker, and what you just saw were the very last moments of her life. Back in September 2019, 20-year-old Keeley was simply walking home after what should have been an ordinary night out. But she never made it back. Instead, her body was discovered later, partially hidden beneath branches near a quiet pool at Wigginton Park. This is that case that will make you question everything you thought you knew, and how quickly the people you trust can turn into the very danger you never saw coming. For starters, Keeley Bunker was born in the year 1999 in Tamworth, England. From the moment she entered the world, she was surrounded by love. Her parents, Debbie and Christopher Bunker, adored her. She also had 2 younger siblings who she practically helped raise. Keeley wasn't just the big sister. She was their protector, their role model, the one who always checked in, always made sure everyone else was okay. Whether it was helping her aunt with her disabled cousin or just being a shoulder for a friend to lean on, Keeley was that person. Always. And yes, she was stunning. Keeley had long chocolate brown hair, striking brown eyes, and a petite yet strong figure. Her smile was something people remembered, genuine, warm, the kind that made you feel like everything was going to be okay. She often said she wanted to be a mom someday, 3 kids at least. And the way she looked after her siblings and younger cousins, no one doubted she'd be incredible at it. By the time she turned 20, in early September of 2019, Keeley had started making big moves. She had just landed an interview for a teaching assistant role at her former primary school. Now, Keeley wasn't a party girl in the typical sense, but birthdays are different. She had recently turned 20 on September 7th, and although the celebration didn't happen on the exact day, she and her best friend, Monique, made plans to go out on September 18th, a full week later. Odd timing, sure. It was a Wednesday, and her big job interview was scheduled for the next afternoon. But Keeley wanted to celebrate, and who could blame her? The plan was simple: go to a rap concert in Birmingham, then maybe head out dancing afterward. Keeley loved music, especially British rap, and one of her favorite artists, H, was performing that night. It felt like the perfect way to close out her birthday week. After the concert ended around 10 o'clock, they weren't ready to call it a night, so they headed to Snobs, a popular nightclub not far from the venue. Once there, they each had about 4 vodka Red Bulls, spread out over a few hours. Monique would later say they weren't drunk, just a little tipsy, still in control, still having fun. At some point during the night, a familiar face joined them, Wesley Street. Keeley had known him since they were kids. Monique met him later in high school. The 3 weren't a tight trio, but they were all part of the same circle growing up. Wesley was known to be the kind of guy who could turn up anywhere and blend in. He was laid back, funny, and always seemed ready for a party. And in this clip, you can see him at the Birmingham station on his way to meet the girls. From the outside, nothing looked off. They were just 3 young people out celebrating, dancing, laughing, filming little clips on their phones like everyone else their age. But there was one thing that would come up later. Wesley had been drinking heavily. According to Monique, he was by far the most intoxicated of the 3. He even got so sick during the taxi ride home that they had to pull over so he could vomit. A bystander described him as 9 out of 10 drunk. Not just a little tipsy, wasted. Still, after their night out, the group returned to Monique's place. Keeley had left a few things there earlier when she got ready. Monique begged her to stay the night. It was late, about 4 in the morning, and her interview wasn't until 2 in the afternoon. She had plenty of time to sleep in. But Keeley was stubborn in the best way. She wanted her bed, her space, her normal routine before something important. She insisted she'd be fine walking home, with Wesley. That was the part that made Monique pause. Keeley was tiny, barely 4 feet 11 and around 100 pounds. Wesley was much bigger, and he was hammered. But Keeley brushed off the concern. "I've got Wes," she told her friend. "I'll be fine." It was the kind of reassurance you give when you really believe nothing bad can happen, when you believe you're with someone safe. They hugged. Keeley and Wesley walked off together, but by the next morning, things started to feel wrong. Monique sent Keeley a Snapchat. No response. That was odd. Keeley was glued to her phone most days. She sent another message. Still no reply. By the time Keeley missed her job interview, the worry turned into panic. This wasn't like her. She was responsible. She was excited about the opportunity. She wouldn't just skip it without a word. Monique reached out to Keeley's family. At first, they assumed maybe she had stayed the night after all. Maybe she had overslept, but when they realized she hadn't come home and Monique hadn't seen her since 4 a.m., alarm bells started ringing. Keeley was reported missing that same day. The police acted fast. They started tracing her steps, talking to everyone who had seen her last, and at the top of that list was Wesley. After all, he was the last one with her, but when Wesley started answering questions, things got strange, fast. He told police he walked Keeley most of the way home, then left her near a phone booth because he felt sick and wanted to get home fast.
You know which way she walked at all?
No. I'm guessing she went home.
Okay.
She was going home.
Which way would she go home normally?
This way.
Back that way? Yeah? Okay. Is that the way you would walk if...
Yeah.
At first that seemed plausible, but then the details started slipping. Did he throw up before getting home? Did he wait for her to enter her house? Did she say anything unusual? Why did his story change each time? And why, when asked for his phone, did he hesitate? Why give the wrong passcode? Meanwhile, Keeley's family and friends began searching, on foot, retracing every possible route she could have taken. They moved in teams, scanning side streets, grassy fields, wooded areas, streams, and then, around 9 o'clock that night, everything changed. From deep within one of those search groups, someone screamed. The kind of scream you don't forget. Her uncle had found her. Keeley Bunker, just 20 years old, was found dead, lying face down in a shallow stream, hidden under a tangle of branches. And in that single moment, the entire story shattered. Her uncle, Jason Brown, was the one who found her. It was a moment that shattered not just her family, but the entire Tamworth community. Jason, a man who had seen difficult things before, later said the scream he let out was one of the most painful sounds he'd ever made. The crime scene was gut-wrenching. Keeley's clothes were disturbed. Her leggings and underwear had been pulled down and caught on her shoes. Her long brown hair was tangled in branches, some of it trailing in the murky stream. Her lower lip was torn, and there were bruises all over her face, forehead, and neck. Later, the autopsy would reveal more than 100 injuries on her body, including deep internal bruising and hemorrhaging around her mouth. The cause of death was clear. Keeley had been strangled. There was no evidence of head trauma, no fall, no accident. This wasn't a tragic mistake. This was murder. As the forensic report came in, it confirmed what everyone feared. Keeley had been sexually assaulted before she was killed. Toxicology tests showed she had alcohol in her system, but she wasn't drunk. She was actually under the legal limit for driving. Traces of MDMA and marijuana were also found, but the pathologist concluded neither substance contributed to her death. What the evidence did prove was that Keeley had not passed out or overdosed. She had been killed by someone she knew, and all eyes were now on Wesley Street. Police brought Wesley in for questioning, not under arrest at first, but as a witness, the last person to see her alive. His story? It started with him saying he walked Keeley part of the way home, then left her near a phone booth because he felt too sick to continue. But the police weren't buying it. His attitude was off. He seemed irritated that anyone was even questioning him. At one point, he complained that people were blaming him for Keeley's disappearance. He didn't act like someone heartbroken or even confused. He acted like someone inconvenienced. Officers asked to see his phone. Wesley hesitated, then handed it over, but gave them the wrong passcode. That move alone raised serious red flags. When they finally unlocked the phone, the first thing they did was check his Google search history, hoping to find something incriminating. They didn't find a direct smoking gun like how to hide a body, but Wesley's behavior was still suspicious. He told officers he was nervous because he didn't want them laughing at his Google searches. In a moment this serious, where a young woman had just been found dead, that kind of answer felt wildly out of place. Meanwhile, Keeley's best friend, Monique, wasn't sitting back either. She was doing her own digging, and when she spoke with Wesley, she noticed something deeply unsettling. His story kept changing. At first, he said he left Keeley at the phone booth because he was too drunk and sick to continue walking her home. Then he said he made it all the way to her street. Then he said he threw up at home. Then outside. Then not at all. The smallest details kept shifting. And while alcohol can mess with your memory, these changes didn't feel like honest confusion. They felt like lies being molded to fit whatever evidence he thought the police had. Monique noticed scratches on Wesley's face, marks that hadn't been there the night before when they were out dancing. That, combined with his ever-changing story, was enough to convince her that he wasn't just hiding something. He was lying. The more she pressed, the more defensive he became. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to answer questions. He didn't want to help find Keeley, and now that they had, he didn't want to take responsibility. The police decided to bring him back in, this time for real. Body cam footage shows Wesley growing agitated as officers take him on a drive to retrace the route he claimed to have taken with Keeley. He was not under arrest yet, but the pressure was mounting. He acted like a victim, like he was being unfairly targeted. "Why are people blaming me?" he kept asking. Officers remained calm. They explained that they were following protocol, and here's the body cam footage from the moment of his arrest.
Wesley, you need to listen to me. Right, this moment in time, you're under arrest for suspicion of murder.
I don't. Cause now, when you say you're gonna take my phone, now I feel like you're blaming me.
No,
We haven't blamed, mate. We haven't once since we've been sat in this car. I think your dad can vouch. We haven't once blamed you for anything. All we've done.
Then came the CCTV footage. Between 4:28 in the morning and 4:52 in the morning on the night Keeley disappeared, Wesley's phone went dark. No GPS activity. But at 4:54 in the morning, it pinged again. This time, at the exact edge of Wigginton Park, the very spot where Keeley's body was later found. Around that same time, a figure matching Wesley's description was caught on CCTV sprinting away from the area. He ran until he was completely out of frame. The footage was grainy but damning, and when the police compared it to his GPS data, the timeline was undeniable. Now backed into a corner, Wesley changed his story. He admitted that he and Keeley had gone to the park together. He claimed they were messing around, that he gave her a piggyback ride, and she accidentally fell off, hitting her head. He said she went unconscious and that he panicked, that he rubbed her back, tried to wake her up, but she wouldn't move. He said she just went floppy, but there was no blunt force trauma, no head injury. The story was falling apart fast. So he changed it again. This time, he said they had been flirting, that they kissed, that she wanted to have sex with him, that it was all consensual, and during sex, he claimed, he accidentally put his forearm over her neck. He didn't realize she had stopped breathing until she was already gone. He said he panicked and hid the body. That was his new story, accidental death during consensual sex. But Keeley's autopsy didn't support that claim. She had scratch marks all over her neck, defensive wounds. She had clearly fought for her life. There was no indication she had agreed to anything, and friends confirmed that Keeley never saw Wesley in a romantic way, not even a little. To her, he was like a brother. There was no flirtation, no mutual interest. And that CCTV footage showed Keeley brushing him off when he tried to put his arm around her. That wasn't teasing. That was a clear boundary, a no in body language. Still, Wesley kept twisting the narrative. He was desperate to control the story, to paint himself as clumsy, misunderstood, someone who panicked but didn't mean harm. And every time the evidence disproved one version of his tale, he shifted to another. 4 different stories in total, all lies, all designed to keep himself out of prison. But investigators were done playing games. Keeley's DNA was found on Wesley's clothing. His jacket was covered in her makeup. His debit card was discovered near her body, likely dropped during the act of hiding it. Everything pointed to him, no one else. Just Wesley, and it became painfully obvious that the man Keeley thought would walk her home safely, someone she had known for more than a decade, was the very reason she never made it home at all. In court, prosecutors didn't hold back. They laid it all out, the timeline, the injuries, the lies. They showed the jury how Wesley had gone from party buddy to predator in the span of a few hours. And they didn't believe for a second that it was spontaneous. This wasn't just a drunken mistake. This was about power, about taking advantage of a young woman who trusted him. They argued that when Keeley said no, either verbally or with her body language, Wesley didn't stop. He overpowered her, and when she fought back, he killed her. One of the most powerful moments came when the prosecution showed a short clip from the CCTV footage. It was silent, but it spoke volumes. Keeley and Wesley were walking side by side. At one point, he put his arm around her, trying to pull her in closer. Keeley subtly brushed him off, not dramatically, not angrily, just a clear signal that she wasn't interested. Then she kept walking. It was a small moment, but it showed everything. She wasn't flirting. She wasn't inviting anything. She was just trying to get home. And for Wesley, that rejection may have been enough to tip everything over the edge. Still, Wesley kept pushing his narrative. He told the jury they were playfully flirting, that Keeley had started it, that she wanted it, that everything was fine until suddenly it wasn't. He said he didn't mean for her to die. He said it was an accident. But then came the final blow to his credibility, his quote on the stand. "I was just thinking, why me? I didn't mean for this to happen. I was just thinking, how am I in this position?" That line hit like a punch to the gut. The entire courtroom, especially Keeley's family, sat in stunned silence. It wasn't grief in his voice. It was self-pity. Wesley wasn't mourning Keeley. He was mourning his own downfall. It wasn't about her at all. And when asked if he thought he was selfish, he said, "No. I put her in that pond, and that's something I have to sleep with." No real remorse. No understanding of what he had taken. Thankfully, the jury didn't buy any of it. In July of 2020, after a trial that lasted nearly 4 weeks, Wesley Street was found guilty of rape and murder. The sentence? Life in prison with a minimum of 29 years before he would even be eligible for parole. It was a powerful moment for Keeley's family, not because it erased the pain, but because it meant her killer would be held accountable. But the trial didn't stop there. In the days that followed, more women came forward, victims who had been assaulted by Wesley in the past but never reported it. Their ages ranged from 15 to 20 years old. One of them said she had been attacked in 2015 when she was just 16. Another was only 15 when it happened in 2017. A third woman said she was assaulted in 2019, the same year Keeley was killed. And sadly, this is a pattern that's all too common in these kinds of cases. One brave victim speaks out, and suddenly the truth spills forward like a dam breaking. These women said they felt guilt, shame, that they thought it was somehow their fault, that they didn't know how to tell anyone. But Keeley's case changed something. One survivor said it wasn't until she saw the news about Keeley that she finally had the courage to speak up. She said, "After Wesley attacked me, I was scared to tell anyone. But when I heard what happened to Keeley, I knew I couldn't stay silent." Another said, "I felt so ashamed, like I had done something wrong. But after seeing Keeley's face, I realized it wasn't just me. Keeley's family gave their victim impact statements during sentencing. Her mother, Debbie, spoke about the agony of losing her precious and beautiful daughter. She said, "We will never forgive, never forget. Our home is broken. Our lives are shattered. We miss her so much it hurts to breathe." Her father, Christopher, added, "A once happy home is now filled with silence. Her siblings are a shadow of who they used to be. Keeley was our light, and now she's gone." The police, too, made a rare public statement. They said, "Her friend trusted him. Keeley trusted him. And there's only one person to blame that she didn't make it home: Wesley." But perhaps the most powerful part of Keeley's legacy isn't just the justice her case delivered, it's the change it inspired. For years in the UK, there was a disturbing trend. Men accused of killing women during sexual activity would claim it was a case of rough sex gone wrong, that it was consensual, that it was an accident, that the victim wanted it, and too often juries would consider it. Not anymore. In 2021, the UK Parliament passed the Domestic Abuse Act, and part of that law was a direct response to cases like Keeley's. The new law clearly states that a person cannot consent to serious harm, especially if it results in death, and in cases where the victim is dead and can't speak for themselves, the accused can no longer hide behind the rough sex defense. Keeley's name was mentioned during the debates. Her face appeared in the headlines, pushing lawmakers to act. Her story helped push the change forward. In a way, even in death, Keeley continued to protect others, just like she always did. Her family later released a statement to the public. They said, "Keeley was the kindest, most beautiful young woman. She was compassionate, loving, funny, always putting others before herself. We will never see her marry. We will never meet her children. Her dreams were stolen, but our love for her will never fade." And that's the part that stays with you. Keeley Bunker didn't die in some faraway alley. She wasn't walking with a stranger. She was with someone she had known since she was a child, someone she trusted, and that trust was used against her in the worst way possible. If there's anything we can take from her story, it's this. Sometimes the people we feel safest with are the very ones we need to look out for. And while that's a hard truth to sit with, Keeley's case, her life, reminds us why it's important to speak up, to believe survivors, and to push for real change in the justice system. She deserved more than what happened. She deserved more time, more life, more everything.